What a joy that you have found us for this podcast. How exciting it is to think that this spiritual message is going out to people around this planet. Whether your life is working at a peak level or whether it can use some enhancement, have I got the message for you today. So get a piece of paper, get ready to take notes, call a friend, have them watch this podcast also. Then you too can have something to talk about and take it to a deeper level. So enjoy. Here we go. Hey, good morning, Seaside. Woo, what a joy it is to be here with you today on this fabulous day, the first day of our 6-week program, and I love this time of the year. It is so fun for me to be able to just immerse my whole being in the consciousness of growth, expansion, prosperity, health, and well-being. And what happens for me this time of the year as I begin to really focus in on this kind of opportunities is my life, what shows up in my life is more wealth, is greater ease, more intimacy, better communication, just a sense of grace in my world, a sense of abundance that flows in cash and things and happiness and joy. And so this year's program is called Will You Grow? And this is a question that I want you to continue to ask yourself over the next 6 weeks. It's almost like a mantra that I'm giving you. It is a powerful 3 words that when you come to any point in your life this week or over the next couple months that is calling for you to stretch, is calling for you to think about your next step, I want you to first ask yourself the question, Christian, you don't have to use your name. I want you to ask yourself, your name, will you grow? You know, here's an opportunity before me. Will you grow? Will you take this next step? Will you be the one who's going to say yes to this opportunity? Because these 3 words were chosen very carefully. Will. I chose will instead of can. Because any of us can stretch. Any of us can grow. Any one of us can do this, what is before us. But it comes down to the question, will. See, that's your choice. It comes down to that soulful choice. Will you grow? You. Not me, not the church, not your friends, not your partner, not the people outside of you. It comes down to this program being about you. Will, that's your choice. You grow. That's what I'm pushing us for. This year was committed to moving beyond, and this program is to assist you to grow. Growth is good for any of us here, whether you're a first time or you've been here a long time, whether you are mature in trips around this sun or new to this planet, whether you're a big giver or a little giver. The question is relevant. Will you grow? Because what I believe is our soul has come here to share, to give, and it is up to us to attempt to put it out there to the best of our ability. And if we are holding back, I feel that I would totally be out of integrity with my soul. If I'm trying to hold back and I'm choosing not to grow, I would be out of integrity with who I am and my sole purpose. You follow what I'm saying here? If you're not going for it, you're out of integrity with your soul. That doesn't feel very good. Not at all. It is about bringing forth the presence of God in whatever you do. Bringing forth the presence of God as you in whatever it is you do. So will you grow? Because we're going to push you to take the next step in your life because you have what it takes. I know it. Remember the first Superman movie? The one where his parents put him in a little space capsule. Their planet was about to blow up, and Marlon Brando, his dad, and his mom put their little baby in the space capsule and had this audio recording going. And as he traveled past the stars and through the galaxies, the voice of his parents told him his origin, told him what he was made of, what his purpose will be and his mission will be on earth, told him his true character, told him who he really was and where it was he came from. And when he landed here on earth, he remembered who he was. Kind of a metaphor for all of us. We're sent here in this world, in this, the originator is filling us with who we are and truly what it is we are, and we have this sole purpose and this mission. But what is different here is Superman didn't forget, and we stepped out into this world and went, whee! And all of a sudden, we began to forget or disregard our programming, that originating power that gave us everything, and we have let go because of the mass consciousness that is telling us who we should be or what it is we should be or what it is we are to be doing. And all of a sudden, it begins to slip away and fall away, and we begin to forget. And all of a sudden, I sit with people at the end of their life, and I listen to them weep and say, Christian, I didn't live my dream. You know how sad that is at the end of life and realize that I lived my life for somebody else? That I lived my life for my relationship, or I lived my life and not my dream. I just did somebody else's dream or my parents' dream or my partner's dream. It's tough stuff. So I'm here to ask you, and this week I want you to continue to ask yourself, will you grow beyond where you are now? And I entice you to take that next step in your life and to stretch and to grow, to bring forth and create space for that dream. And I'll tell you what, it's wonderful, is that you're part of a movement, the New Thought movement, which I think is probably one of the greatest gifts to humanity. And the reason I feel it's one of the greatest gifts to humanity is because it is probably the only spiritual philosophy, not the only spiritual philosophy, but one of the only major spiritual philosophies that tells you the beauty of that the kingdom of heaven is here. It is at hand. It is now. Do you know how many religions or philosophies tell you that the kingdom of heaven is out there someday? That when you die, you may be saved, or maybe a reincarnation that in the next lifetime you'll get it right, or that you have got to suffer through this lifetime. Do you know what a blessing it is? You are part of the New Thought movement that tells you heaven is now. Hey! So will you take the next step and experience it to a new degree? Yes. Oh, good thing. I know I'm constantly brought up to that. My car is a convertible. And so I put the top down at the beginning of the summer, and I pretty much have left it down, particularly since it broke and wouldn't come up. But a few Sundays ago, you may remember it rained on Sunday morning, and thank goodness our ushers and greeters covered my car, but it still experienced more moisture than it is used to on the interior. So a few weeks ago, I took it back to the dealership and said, hey, could you show me how to just manually put the top back up? And they say, manually? No, it doesn't work like that. You got a car that we got to fix, like the hydraulic system. And I go, oh, so how long will that take? Well, they say, well, we better give you a loaner car. And it may take a while. And since I had Trevor with me, I needed the top up. So I said, okay. So they lent me a Mercedes from their fleet of loaner cars. And Trevor, my 7-year-old, just thought that was the greatest thing in the world. You trade one car and you get a nice new Mercedes. Now, Trevor loves anything to do with transportation and wheels, and that's who he is. And so after that experience, he keeps saying to me, dealership. Let's go to that dealership. And it's like, why do you want to go to the dealership? And he doesn't have a lot of words, so he just says dealership, and he loves transportation, so I thought he'd enjoy going up there this last week. So I just took him up to the dealership. And what did you know? He went to that fleet of Mercedes and kind of held out his arms and said, pick one. And I was like, okay, well, now do I kind of tell him it doesn't really work like that? Or do I listen to him and say it really does work like that? And all of a sudden I get to be a choice. Will I grow? Will I take the next step? Or will I indoctrinate this little guy into the mass consciousness and says, you just don't turn in cars like that? I don't know yet. Oh, my goodness. It is, it's all God, right? We know all substance of the universe is spirit. Spirit is all form, it is all expression, and I can choose to tap into whatever level of consciousness that I want to choose to experience in my life. I get to choose at what level that I want to experience the presence of God in my life. It is all spirit. And so will I grow or will I fall back? Will I take the next step? It is totally up to me. Or do I want to buy into, you know what, I'm just going to leave it alone and not rock the boat. But what I do know is important is that we come to recognize that there is a presence of God that is moving in and through all things. And it is up to me to know that and to remember that always, constantly, and consistently. And so I have an assignment for you this week. And you may have already have done this. And if you have, then you can enhance it. If you haven't, I encourage you to do that, is to make sure that you create an altar in your house or in your home. Somewhere where you continue to look and are reminded that God is the substance of all things. And whatever situation I find myself in, I get to ask myself, will I grow? Will I step into a greater God expression? Or will I allow this world of form and phenomenon to dominate my consciousness? I encourage you to create an altar, because in your house, you've got pictures. And you have got knickknacks from around the world that remind you of those wonderful experiences and times. You've got statuary that came from different parts of the world. You have got paintings that allow you to feel good. And what I feel is imperative within your home is to create a spot that is an altar where you can put something on that place and say, this is going to remind me of God every time I walk about it. Put some sacred pictures. Put some candles. Put some crystals. Put the textbook from Ernest Holmes. Put whatever you want. But keep that space sacred. I know at my house, every room has something that reminds me of God and this higher power. I look out my dining room window, I see a meditation garden. I look at my living room, and I see expressions of spirit. I hang out here, I'm reminded of God. But what I know is that when I'm constantly reminded that I'm not alone in this, that actually I'm living and moving and having my being in this God expression, then when I am faced with a situation, I will remember to ask myself, will I grow with this gift from God? Now, there are a couple, Old West, a couple cavalry guys. They were only two guys, and they were being attacked by the Indians. I guess the proper word is Native Americans. But they were being attacked, and they were just defending themselves. They were willing to give their life, fight diligently to save themselves from this onslaught. And finally, one of the cavalry guys tapped his buddy and said, hey, I've got good news, and I got bad news. The bad news is we're totally out of ammunition, and there's no possibility of reserves coming to save us. I said, what's the good news? He said, and the good news is there are no Indians out there. And it just reminds me how in our life we get so into doing our battle, how we get so into fighting, how we get so into holding things together that if we were to take a step back and look at our life and come to recognize, you know what? The battle's over. There aren't any other attacks going on. If I could just step back and recognize the energy that I have been expending to fight the drama in my life, and I'm all geared up, and I'm powering out those letters, and I'm attacking, and I'm defending, and there's nothing left there. Yeah, you know that one. I like what Ram Dass said. He said, take your melodrama and turn it into a mellow drama. Yeah, that's worth writing down. That's good. You got the notes right there. Oh, boy. Remember the old Star Trek TV show, the Starship Enterprise? And almost every episode, they'd come under attack, and they'd have to put up their protective force field to protect them from whatever enemy attack was there. And at some point, their engineer, Scotty, would come to Captain Kirk and said, Captain, and he'd have an accent that I don't have, but he'd say, Captain, we are running out of power. We are going to have to put down the force field if we are going to want to make a move. Then all of a sudden they'd put their heads together and they'd figure out some great thing and they'd put down the force field and go. But the thing is, when you have that force field up, you are using up the power. You're using up the energy for defense. You're using your creative gifts and possibility to create, to take the next step, to defend yourself. And as long as you are living in that defense mode, you are spending all your energy. You are spending all that is channeling and moving through you Because it's about moving through you. This is how you create. This is abundance. It's an outpouring. It is an outflow. And if what is flowing out of you is creating the space so you're safe, so you can be centered, that can only last so long. Stop the defense. Give it up. Our country spends billions of dollars at the neighborhood level, at the individual level, to protect themselves. So people just get more sophisticated. I saw in the magazine where people put in their cars like radar detectors so they don't get caught by police when they're speeding. Then I read how the police get fancier radar, and then people get fancier radar detectors and police get fancy. It's like this Mad magazine where it's spy versus spy. It's like, oh, no. Why don't I just allow myself to grow into my self-expression of God and Spirit? Why don't I allow myself to realize that I don't need to create the dramas in my life? And when I have the drama in my life, I tend to go to God. And when I go to God, I tend to go to God after the fact because I go in a sense of confusion. I go in a sense of prayer. Let us not forget that God is with us always. Let me remember that I am living and moving and having my being within God consciousness. God is all. In the beginning was Spirit, this life force, this all animating original first cause. There was no otherness. So all that is of Spirit. So what I am doing is having my being already in that God expression. And what I must learn to do is step into that and to know who it is I am. And then I will be able to take the next step. I will be able to grow in what my choices are because life is about evolution. It is about growth. It is about creation. Got this great quote from Ernest Holmes we put in the Sacred Circles. And I just want to encourage you, the Sacred Circles are starting this week. The Sacred Circles take this Sunday message to a deeper level. So rather than just sitting here for an hour on Sunday, what we have done in a neighborhood near you, in 14, 15 different locations, our spiritual practitioners are facilitating a wonderful hour and about 15 minutes with a dozen people in an intimate setting that is social and friendly at no cost to you. It is a free gift. I encourage you to take this Sunday message to a deeper level by getting involved with the Sacred Circle. I want to encourage you to sign up after our Sunday service today. It's in the back. There is no cost for you to take this message. There are questions in here that will help you probe into a deeper level. Laura Shepard created the Sacred Circle this time for 6 weeks called Will You Grow, with the meditations and the insights and the quotes. I encourage everybody who's part of our spiritual community to be involved with the Sacred Circle. And she starts it off with this beautiful quote from Ernest Holmes. And also the Sacred Circles you can load. It's on a PDF file and you can download. Your facilitator can tell you how to do this. But the quote comes from Ernest Holmes' textbook on page 387, where he wrote that the spiral of life is upward. Evolution carries us forward, not backward. Eternal and progressive expansion is its law, and there are no breaks in its continuity. So it seems to me that our evolution is the result of the unfolding consciousness of that which already is and needs but to be realized to become a fact of everyday life. There's a continuity. There's an expansion of that which already is. That's why I'm saying we don't have to go to God with our problems, but rather recognize that we're already in God. And just tap into that and to feel that. And I know that I can share with you this revelation. I know you read these great words of insight and mystical connection. But that's not going to do it. The words or the inspiration may prompt you, but it must be an experience. There must be a resolve that takes place inside of you. It doesn't matter so much what I say. It is the response and the resolve that takes place inside of you. It is the reading. It may get you on the right track, but that is not the answer. The answer comes through the resolve and the shift that takes place in your heart and your soul. You have got to move out of your mind. And the mind is a wonderful gift. I thank God that I've got the mind that I have. It is beautiful. But what happens is the mind begins to say, I'm in charge, and this is what's what's going on. And what I want us to do, if you want to grow and take the next step, and where we're going to be pushing you, is to be able to listen to that soul that was programmed when it came here. Just like Superman got its programming from its parents, you have been programmed as you arrived into this world with something that is seeking to express itself as you. And you've got to listen. When I say listen, not with your mind, but listen with your whole being, your whole awareness, your whole field of influence. Move beyond the realm of mind, because that will keep you in the answers that have been. It will keep you on the step that you have been. Will you grow? You've got to do something different. You've got to be in a different kind of way, so you can express the Spirit in your life in a new kind of way. For Spirit is new, it is refreshing, it is recreating. It was interesting when Jesus asked his disciples, he said, "Who do men say that I, the Son of God, am?" Kind of strange way. I guess that's King James Version, huh? Who do men say that I, the Son of God, am? And they said, some say that you're John the Baptist. Others say you're Elijah. Others will say you're Jeremiah or some other prophet, which is a very clear indication that the early Christian church believed in reincarnation. At least the guys who put together the Bible originally believed in reincarnation, to be able to put down in there saying, hey, you're this or you're that. But that's mind stuff. That is the head stuff. It's not just the Orient that believed in the reincarnation. The early Christian church did that, said, you can get another lifetime. But you know what? Jesus came back and said, but who do you? See, once again, he comes to that you that we're using here. Will you grow? The power is in you. He said, who do you say that I am? A clear distinction between the men, between them outside, that intellectual mind, and you. What's in your heart? What is in your soul? What is in your spirit? And Peter said, well, you're Christ, the Son of the living God. He knew that. He knew it because he was with him. He had that response in his soul and his spirit. Those that were with him, heard him speak the different languages, saw the healing, was able to transcend whatever the form and condition was. They knew through experience. There was a big difference between the mind, where he said, flesh and blood, they would not know. You do not know with your head. You will know only through your heart. Your heart is the place where it's going on, where it is happening. It is through that place that the miracles begin to happen. There was a little guy, not a little guy, he was a young teenage boy by the name of Tim. He was in a serious automobile accident. He had some brain damage. And he, after the accident, his speech was slowed, his motor skills had been slowed. And here was this young, vivacious, athletic, popular young man who couldn't do some of the very common, normal things that people just take for granted. And through therapy, he was progressing and he was getting better. But during that time, it was interesting, his parents got to a place, in their sadness and their heartbreak, to see their son looking like that, got to a place where they recognized what was important for them is they had to release their son in the way he used to be, in the way in which they remembered him, and embrace him for the person who he is now. Of course, they were able to hold the picture of his wholeness and his being, but what was important is for them to let go of the past image of how he was and embrace him for who he is now, for the person he is now. And through the tearful, painful process they went through, that they experienced an immense amount of healing. But it leaves me with the concept, will I grow in my life to embrace the newness? Or am I stuck in the cast of the past, trying to be how I was? Or are you with somebody who's trying to make you how you were? Or are you trying to have somebody be how they were? This is how you used to be in our relationship, or this is how it used to be, and not embrace the newness. Will you grow? Will you embrace what is today and grow from here, as opposed to be stuck in the past? Because as we step into the greater possibilities, we're able to step into the grace of God. We're able to step forth into a way where healing happens. But we've got to get out of this mind thing. The mind that says it can't be done, it hasn't been done, precedent. Keeps people stuck. The head keeps chattering. There are a couple of psychologists. They were walking down the corridor talking to each other. And one of their colleagues stepped out and looked at him, smiled, and said, "Good morning." And as he walked away out of earshot of the two psychologists, one of them turned to the other and said, "What do you think he meant by that?" That's the analytical mind. That is the mind that keeps chattering. That is the mind that we've got to throw out. We've got to evict the dictators of consciousness that keep us analyzing, and not growing. We've got to evict the dictators of consciousness that say we are not good enough. We've got to evict the dictators of consciousness that will keep us trapped in the past and stuck in not growing, remembering how it was and how magnificent my life was, and all these things which are beautiful and wonderful, and they're the foundation for you to grow in your life today, to be able to live in the present. You've got to love with the fullness of your heart and your being. Love the Lord with all your heart and soul and might. It didn't say love Him with your mind. It loves with all your heart. With the heart, what's the heart? It is the pure. It is the unadulterated. It is the it's not looking for anything to come back. It's the unconditioned. It is giving without a sense of looking back. It is that natural outpouring of life itself. It is that which wants you to grow. When you're able to love the Spirit with all that you have, that is when you will be able to dwell in the secret place of the Most High and abide. In the 91st Psalm says, in the shadow of the Almighty, where evil cannot besiege you, where the plague cannot get you, and on and on. Basically, you have got to live in the grace of God if you want to experience the grace of God. It's not putting it in your head. If you want to live by the grace of God, you've got to be in that. You've got to be in that which has already been given. And as you do that, you're able to step forward. And as you step, that's all you can do in life. That's all life can ask you to do, is take the next step. Us humans want to know how it's going to work out. Let me see the full picture, God, before I get committed and go. You have got to take the next step. That's all life can ask of you, is for you to take this next step if you want to grow. And what you will begin to experience is spontaneous good. What you will continue to experience is continuous revelation. What you will experience is the emergence of that which is beyond your imagination. What you will experience is this transcendent view that allows you to know truly that you are an expression of God, of the Most High. And that love for that Spirit is the love that you have to share with this world. And you cannot help but to grow, because you will be taking that next step. God bless us as we do this together. Yeah. So I'd like to invite the ushers to come forward as we do take our gift from our heart. Again, with a lot of heart and soul and passion. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. Hey, I trust you enjoyed that podcast. It was very exciting to be able to create that and to know that there are people like you all around the world that are observing and integrating these spiritual principles into their life. And so if you enjoyed it, what I'd like to do is encourage you to tell a friend or bring several friends together and watch another one of these podcasts, and then afterwards take some time to talk about the spiritual principles, to talk about the stories and what significance they have and relevance they have in your life. What then happens is it moves to a deeper and deeper level in your world. It becomes real and assists you to create the freedom in your life that your heart and soul so desire. So if you like this, I encourage you to watch it again, but also tune into our website here at seasidecenter.org. There, you can get some of my written material and take a look at it. You can read some of my spiritual prayers. You can even go to our online bookstore and order some of the books. And if you're so moved, what I greatly would appreciate is your financial support, which you could do online at seasidecenter.org. It is support like yours that assists us to be able to continue to do these kinds of gifts for humanity and send it out to the world. Because you know what? We are making a difference with this spiritual message. And because of support like yours, people are being touched in the farthest reaches of this planet, as well as our backyard, more than we could ever begin to realize. So I thank you from the fullness of my heart for making a difference.